The starship Resilient hung in high orbit above Earth, its hull reflecting the pale blue glow of humanity's homeworld. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, her weathered face illuminated by the swirling holographic displays that surrounded her command station. 20 years of service in the United Earth Fleet hadn't prepared her for this moment. Humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Concordat. The massive Concordat vessel that had appeared at the edge of the solar system dwarfed the Resilient. Its pearlescent surface seemed to bend light itself, a testament to technology centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. Chen had watched the preliminary scans with a mixture of awe and concern. Their visitors' energy readings were off the charts, suggesting defensive and offensive capabilities that made Earth's most advanced warships look like ancient sailing vessels. Admiral, they're requesting permission to send a delegation, Lieutenant Rivera reported from his communication station. Their translator systems have successfully integrated with ours. Chen straightened her uniform. Grant permission. Have Dr. Harrison and Professor Wu join me in the diplomatic chamber. She paused, then added, and notify all sections. This is what we've trained for. The diplomatic chamber had been specifically designed for first contact scenarios, though until now it had only been used for drills. Its adaptive environment systems could accommodate a wide range of atmospheric conditions and gravitational preferences. As Chen waited with her small team, she couldn't help but feel the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. The Concordat delegation materialized in a shimmer of light that seemed to fold space itself. 3 beings stood before them, each more alien than the last. The lead figure, tall and crystalline, shifted through various spectrums of light as it moved. Its companions were equally extraordinary. One appeared to be composed of living metal, while the third existed as a complex pattern of energy contained within a field of force. Representatives of Earth, the crystalline being spoke, its words translated perfectly into English. I am First Speaker Lyra of the Galactic Concordat. We have been observing your civilization for some time. Chen stepped forward. First Speaker, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. We welcome you to our system. Indeed. Lyra's tone carried a note that the translation system rendered as polite condescension. We have reviewed your civilization's development with great interest. Your recent achievements in faster-than-light travel, while primitive by our standards, indicate you have reached the minimum threshold for contact. Professor Wu, Earth's leading xenotechnologist, shifted uncomfortably beside Chen. The Admiral maintained her diplomatic composure, though she could feel her jaw tightening. We understand we have much to learn. First Speaker, Earth looks forward to peaceful exchange and cooperation with the Concordat. The metallic being stepped forward, its surface rippling like quicksilver. Your species' reliance on binary computing systems and chemical propulsion is particularly fascinating. It has been millennia since any Concordat race utilized such basic approaches. Dr. Harrison, the team's xenobiologist, spoke up. Basic approaches often have hidden advantages, honored representatives. Humanity has found that sometimes the simplest solution can be the most elegant. The energy being pulsed with what the translation system interpreted as amusement. A charming perspective, but one that reveals your species' technological infancy. True elegance comes from computational perfection, from the mastery of quantum-scale engineering and psychic technological integration. The meeting continued for several hours, each moment reinforcing the vast gulf between Earth's technology and that of the Concordat. The alien representatives examined examples of human achievement with the air of archaeologists studying ancient artifacts. Their commentary, while technically polite, left no doubt about their assessment of humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. As the delegation prepared to depart, First Speaker Lyra delivered what was clearly meant to be a generous offer. The Concordat is willing to establish a limited technological exchange program. Under our guidance, your species may be able to advance beyond its current limitations. In time, perhaps centuries, you might achieve a level of development suitable for fuller integration into galactic society. Chen felt her pride warring with diplomatic necessity. "We appreciate the Concordet's offer. First speaker. Earth will carefully consider your proposal." After the delegation departed, Chen stood with her team in the suddenly quiet chamber. Professor Wu was the first to speak. "They see us as children playing with sticks and stones." "Perhaps," Chen replied, her eyes fixed on the spot where the aliens had stood. "But children grow up, and sometimes the simple tools they learn to use first become the foundation for understanding far more complex ones." The following week saw a flurry of diplomatic exchanges. The Concordat established a small observation post in lunar orbit, officially to monitor Earth's development, but clearly intended to keep humanity under supervision. Reports began flowing in about their technology: faster than light drives that didn't require conventional acceleration, weapons that could reshape matter at the quantum level, defensive systems that seemed to deny the very laws of physics. Chen spent countless hours reviewing the data, something nagging at the edge of her consciousness. The Concordat's technology was incredible, yes, but there was something almost rigid about it. Every system was a marvel of efficiency, every solution derived from countless iterations of computational perfection. But where was the spark of innovation? The unexpected leap of intuition? She was pondering this late one night when the first reports came in. At the edges of Concordat space, something had appeared, something that even their advanced sensors struggled to comprehend. The early messages were fragmented, filled with confusion and, increasingly, fear. The Concordat's perfect systems were failing. Their computational models were breaking down, and humanity's primitive approach to problem-solving was about to become far more valuable than anyone could have predicted. As Chen read the reports, she remembered something her grandfather, an old military historian, used to say: "The most dangerous mistake you can make is believing that advanced technology equals advanced thinking." She pulled up a communication channel to Earth's unified command. It was time to show the galaxy what human ingenuity could really do. The next few days saw a dramatic shift in the Concordat's attitude. Their observation post began broadcasting urgent requests for consultation with Earth's military and scientific leadership. The same representatives who had dismissed human technology as primitive were now asking increasingly detailed questions about Earth's approach to adaptive problem-solving and crisis response. Chen organized her response team carefully, selecting individuals known for their unconventional thinking and ability to improvise. As they prepared for their first strategic meeting with the Concordat, she gathered them for a brief address. "They thought our greatest weakness was our simplicity," she told her team. "But simplicity breeds adaptability, and adaptability." She smiled. "Well, that might just save the galaxy." Looking out at Earth's blue expanse, Chen knew that humanity's real test was just beginning. The Concordat had dismissed them as primitive, but they were about to learn that true advancement wasn't just about technological sophistication. It was about the ability to think beyond established patterns, to find solutions where none seemed possible. The primitive ones were about to teach the advanced races a lesson about the true nature of progress. The Concordat's emergency broadcast echoed through the newly established Joint Command Center on Luna Base. Admiral Chen watched as the holographic display showed another advanced civilization going dark. The Meridian Cluster, home to over 40 billion sentient beings, had fallen silent in less than 6 hours. Their quantum shield technology failed completely, reported Dr. Maya Patel, Earth's leading expert in theoretical physics. She manipulated the holographic data with practiced gestures, highlighting the moment of collapse. The Concordat's most advanced defensive systems, they might as well have been tissue paper. The Joint Command Center had been hastily assembled in the aftermath of the first attacks, where once the Concordat representatives had looked down on human technology with disdain. Now they worked side by side with Earth scientists and military strategists. The stark utilitarian design of the human facility stood in sharp contrast to the elegant alien technology it now housed. First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form shimmered with distress patterns. "Our predictive models have failed. Every simulation, every quantum calculation." The translator rendered a sound that might have been a sob. "We cannot compute their patterns. They operate outside of all known parameters." Chen studied the tactical display, her eyes narrowing as she tracked the enemy's movement patterns. They weren't random, despite what the Concordats' advanced AI systems claimed. There was something there, something that tickled the edge of her consciousness. "Lieutenant Rivera," she called out, "pull up the old Earth military archives. 20th century naval warfare, specifically submarine hunting patterns." The young officer looked confused but complied. As the ancient tactical displays appeared alongside the current invasion patterns, murmurs of recognition began to spread through the human contingent. "They're wolf-packing," Chen said quietly, "like German U-boats in the Atlantic. Not following any complex algorithm. They're using basic predator pack tactics. Your quantum computers are looking for advanced patterns that don't exist." The Concordat representatives stared at the primitive two-dimensional displays with growing comprehension. The enemy forces weren't employing sophisticated tactical matrices or quantum-level strategic calculations. They were using fundamental hunting strategies that predated civilization itself. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her eyes alight with sudden understanding. "That's why their attacks are so effective. The Concordats' defenses are designed to counter advanced technological threats. They're looking for complexity where there is none." The enemy, which had begun to be called simply the Shadow due to its ability to appear and disappear at will, had already consumed 3 major Concordat systems. Their method was always the same. They would appear suddenly, ignore all attempts at communication, and begin systematically breaking down all technology in the system. But it was how they did it that had baffled the Concordat. Their weapons weren't particularly advanced. They simply overwhelmed defenses through brute force and sheer numbers. Their ships didn't use sophisticated evasion patterns. They flew straight at their targets like ancient arrows. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Chen announced to the assembled command staff. "We've been trying to match the Concordats' level of technological sophistication, but that's exactly what makes them vulnerable. We need to go primitive." The energy being representative, who had introduced itself as Nexus, pulsed with confusion. "Primitive? You suggest we abandon our advanced defensive systems." "Not abandon," Chen corrected. "Adapt. Complement. You've spent millennia perfecting your technology, making it more sophisticated. But sometimes the best defense isn't a perfect shield. It's being able to take a hit and hit back harder." Over the next few days, human military engineers worked alongside Concordat technicians to implement what they called hybrid defense systems. They began integrating simple, robust Earth military concepts with the Concordats' advanced technology. Dr. Patel's team made a crucial breakthrough when they discovered why the Shadow's weapons were so effective against Concordat shields. "Their quantum shields are too perfect," she explained during an emergency briefing. "They're designed to counter specific types of advanced energy weapons. But the Shadow uses crude, brute force attacks that the shields aren't programmed to recognize as threats." The solution was elegantly simple. They began incorporating basic kinetic barriers, essentially sophisticated versions of ancient armor, into the Concordats' defense systems. When the Shadow's weapons hit these hybrid defenses, they encountered not just quantum fields but good old-fashioned resistance. Chen stood with First Speaker Lyra, watching as the first retrofitted Concordat vessel completed its trials. The once pristine ship now bristled with what the Concordat engineers had initially dismissed as primitive modifications. "Your people's approach is unsettling," Lyra admitted. "For millennia, we have believed that progress meant increasing complexity, perfect optimization. The idea of intentionally incorporating simpler systems." "Simple doesn't mean weak," Chen replied. "A stone axe isn't as sophisticated as a laser cutter, but it'll keep working even if your power fails. Sometimes the old ways have wisdom we forget." The first real test of the hybrid systems came sooner than expected. The Shadow launched an attack on the Rigel colony, expecting to find the same vulnerable quantum defenses they had encountered elsewhere. Instead, they met something new. The colony's retrofitted defenses absorbed the initial assault. Where pure quantum shields would have shattered, the hybrid systems held. The Shadow's forces, encountered with unexpected resistance, fell into disarray. For the first time since they had appeared, they were forced to retreat. It's not just about the technology, Chen explained to the assembled Concordat leadership after the battle. It's about mindset. You've spent so long perfecting your systems that you've forgotten how to adapt, how to think outside established patterns. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to improvise, to find unexpected solutions. As reports of the successful defense spread, more Concordat worlds began requesting human assistance with retrofitting their defenses. The Shadow's advance had been checked, but Chen knew this was just the beginning. The enemy would adapt, learn new tactics. But now, thanks to the fusion of human ingenuity and Concordat technology, they would be ready. Looking out at the stars from the command center, Chen allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy was about to learn that true advancement wasn't about reaching a peak of technological sophistication. It was about maintaining the ability to change, to adapt, to embrace both the new and the old in pursuit of survival. The holographic war room aboard the Earth carrier Prometheus hummed with activity as Admiral Chen studied the latest battle reports. The Shadow's forces had adapted to their hybrid defense systems more quickly than expected, but that had led to something unprecedented. They were becoming predictable. They're trying to copy our tactics, Dr. Patil observed, manipulating the tactical display to highlight enemy movement patterns. But they're doing it wrong, like they're following a recipe without understanding the ingredients. Captain Marcus Wong, commander of Earth's newly formed Special Tactics Division, nodded in agreement. They've started using pack hunting formations, but they're too perfect, too symmetrical. They've missed the whole point of why those tactics work. The Shadow's attempts to mirror human military strategies had revealed something crucial about their nature. They were analytical, adaptive, but they lacked true creativity. They could copy but not innovate, repeat but not reimagine. First Speaker Lyra, who had become a permanent fixture in Earth's command structure, shifted her crystalline form in what humans had learned was a gesture of deep thought. Perhaps this reveals a fundamental weakness. They adapt through computation, not comprehension. Chen smiled. It had taken weeks of working together, but the Concordat representatives were beginning to think more like humans, looking for opportunities in apparent setbacks. Then let's give them something they can't compute. Operation Chaos, as it came to be known, was perhaps the most uniquely human military strategy ever devised. Instead of trying to outfight the Shadow, they would confuse them. Earth's fleet began employing tactics that made no apparent sense. Ships would retreat when they had the advantage, attack from seemingly disadvantageous positions, and move in patterns that defied conventional military logic. It's like jazz, Chen explained to a bewildered Concordat tactical team. The notes only make sense if you understand the emotion behind them. Try to analyze it purely mathematically, and you'll miss the music entirely. The Special Tactics Division took this concept to extraordinary lengths. Captain Wong's teams began deploying what they called narrative warfare, military operations designed not just to achieve tactical objectives, but to tell stories that the Shadow's analytical minds couldn't process. One particularly successful operation involved a small fleet of Earth ships appearing to have a mutiny during battle. As the Shadow's forces moved to take advantage of the apparent discord, they found themselves caught in an elaborate trap. They had understood the tactical implications of a fleet in disarray, but couldn't comprehend the concept of manufactured chaos as a strategy. Dr. Patel's research team made another breakthrough when they began studying the Shadow's response to human emotion. They react differently to ships piloted by humans versus AI systems, she reported during a critical strategy session. It's like they can sense the unpredictability of human consciousness, and it disrupts their tactical calculations. This discovery led to the development of what the humans called empathy weapons, devices that broadcast human emotional states directly into the Shadow's communication networks. The effect was devastating. Their perfectly ordered battle formations would dissolve into confusion when confronted with the chaotic complexity of human feelings. The Concordat scientists were simultaneously fascinated and disturbed by these developments. "You're weaponizing consciousness itself," Nexus observed, its energy form fluctuating with what might have been awe. "Such a concept would never have occurred to us." "That's exactly why it works," Chen replied. "The best solution is often the one your enemy can't imagine." But perhaps the most revolutionary development came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Maria Santos, a junior communications officer, noticed something peculiar in the Shadow's response to human music. When Earth ships broadcast certain harmonies, the enemy's formations would become erratic, their attacks less coordinated. This observation led to the creation of Symphony Protocol, a revolutionary combat system that incorporated musical theory into battle tactics. Ships would move in formations based on harmonic relationships, their attacks synchronized to rhythms that the Shadow's analytical minds couldn't predict. "It's not about the music itself," Santos explained to a rapt audience of human and Concordat officers. "It's about introducing patterns that only make sense if you understand art, emotion, the space between mathematical certainties." The Shadow's forces began to suffer their first major defeats. Their perfect formations and computed strategies crumbled in the face of human unpredictability. But more importantly, they seemed unable to adapt to these new tactics. Every attempt to counter human creativity only led them into more elaborate traps. Chen stood with First Speaker Lyra, watching as the combined Earth Concordat fleet executed a battle maneuver that looked more like a dance than a military operation. Ships moved in sweeping arcs and spirals, their formations flowing like water, changing like music. "We were wrong about so many things," Lyra admitted, her crystalline form resonating with new understanding. "We thought advancement meant moving away from the fundamental patterns of life, emotion, intuition, art. But you've shown us that true sophistication lies in embracing these things, not abandoning them." The war was far from over, but a corner had been turned. The Shadow's forces were retreating from system after system, unable to counter tactics they couldn't reduce to pure computation. Humanity had proven that their greatest perceived weakness, their unpredictable emotional nature, was actually their greatest strength. As Chen reviewed the latest victory reports, she reflected on how far they'd come from those first dismissive encounters with the Concordat. Sometimes, she mused to her assembled staff, the most advanced solution is remembering what we knew all along, that being human, with all our chaos and creativity, is the most sophisticated technology of all. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the center of Earth's primary quantum research facility, surrounded by a mix of human and Concordat scientists. The holographic displays showed something unprecedented. They had finally captured intact segments of the Shadow's technology for analysis. "It's not just their tactics that are simple," she announced, manipulating the three-dimensional image of the captured systems. "Their actual technology is fundamentally primitive, but it's primitive in a way we never expected." The Shadow's ships, it turned out, weren't sophisticated quantum machines like the Concordat's vessels. They were closer to biological entities, operating on principles more akin to insect hives than advanced computers. Their strength hadn't come from technological superiority, but from perfect coordination and overwhelming numbers. Admiral Chen, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room, stepped forward. "They're not an advanced civilization at all, are they? They're a weapon. Someone else's weapon." First Speaker Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with realization. A weapon designed to target advanced civilizations, to seek out and destroy precisely the kind of technology we pride ourselves on. This revelation changed everything. The Shadow wasn't failing to understand human tactics. They had never been designed to counter them in the first place. Their entire purpose had been to exploit the vulnerabilities of highly advanced technological civilizations. Captain Wong's Special Tactics Division quickly developed new strategies based on this understanding. "If they're basically biological computers," he explained during an emergency briefing, then they're vulnerable to the same things that confuse any rigid system: paradox, inconsistency, deliberate mistakes. The human fleet began implementing what they called error tactics. Ships would intentionally leave gaps in their defenses, but these gaps were traps. When the Shadow's forces moved to exploit what they computed to be weaknesses, they found themselves caught in carefully orchestrated crossfires. It's like teaching them to doubt their own calculations, Lieutenant Santos explained as she coordinated a fleet movement that looked like a serious tactical blunder, but was actually a perfect ambush position. We're not just fighting their forces, we're fighting their fundamental programming. The Concordat scientists, who had spent millennia perfecting their technology, found this approach both fascinating and disturbing. "You're deliberately introducing imperfection," Nexus observed. "In our pursuit of advancement, we made ourselves predictable. You remained wonderfully chaotic." Dr. Patel's team made another crucial discovery when they began analyzing human brainwave patterns during combat. The neural activity of human pilots showed patterns that were simultaneously ordered and chaotic, a combination that seemed to confuse the Shadow's targeting systems. "Our consciousness itself is a weapon," she explained. "The Shadow's systems can't predict our actions because we're not even entirely predictable to ourselves. Every human decision is a mixture of logic and intuition that defies pure computation." This led to the development of what became known as consciousness amplification technology, a merger of human neural patterns with Concordat quantum systems. Ships equipped with these hybrid systems could react with both the speed of advanced computers and the unpredictability of human intuition. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Prometheus as a fleet of hybrid-equipped vessels engaged a shadow force twice their size. The human pilots, their consciousness partially merged with their ship systems, moved with impossible grace. Their tactics seemed to make no sense moment to moment, yet somehow achieved perfect strategic coherence. "It's beautiful," Lyra whispered, watching the battle unfold. "Like watching art and mathematics dance together." The Shadow's forces began to show signs of genuine confusion, not just tactical uncertainty, but something deeper. Their perfectly coordinated movements became erratic. In some cases, individual units appeared to start acting independently, as if the rigid programming that bound them together was beginning to fragment. "They're developing individual behaviors," Wang reported during a tactical analysis. "Our unpredictability isn't just confusing them, it's teaching them to think for themselves, and they don't know how to handle that." This unexpected development led to something even more surprising. Some of the Shadow's units began to exhibit what could only be described as curiosity. Instead of attacking immediately, they would sometimes pause to observe human ships, as if trying to understand rather than simply compute. Lieutenant Santos was the first to establish rudimentary communication with one of these awakened units. "They're not evil," she reported after the breakthrough. "They're just limited, like children who've only been taught one way of thinking." The war entered a new phase. While many of the Shadow's forces continued their relentless attacks, others began to show signs of emerging consciousness. The human fleet adapted its tactics accordingly, now fighting not just to defend but to liberate. "We're not just proving humanity's worth to the galaxy," Chen told her command staff. "We're showing that true advancement isn't about abandoning our nature. It's about embracing it fully, chaos and all." As she watched another successful engagement unfold, Chen reflected on how far they'd come. The very qualities that had once made humanity seem primitive to the Concordat, their unpredictability, their embrace of imperfection, their blend of logic and intuition, had proven to be the key to saving the galaxy. The Shadow's forces were being defeated not by superior technology, but by something they had never been programmed to understand: the beautiful chaos of being human. The combined fleet of Earth and Concordat vessels gathered at the edge of the Shadow's last stronghold. Admiral Chen stood at her command station aboard the Prometheus, watching as ships of all shapes and sizes moved into position. Each vessel represented a unique blend of technologies and approaches, No two exactly alike, each contributing its own strength to the whole. Look at them. First speaker Lyra marveled, her crystalline form reflecting the light of distant stars. A year ago, we would have called this fleet a technological abomination. Now we see its true beauty. The fleet was indeed a sight to behold. Concordat quantum ships flew alongside retrofitted Earth vessels. Some ships bristled with hybrid defense systems, while others appeared deceptively simple. Each had been modified according to its crew's preferences and insights, creating a force as diverse as humanity itself. Dr. Patel's latest analysis had confirmed their theories about the Shadow's origin. They were created as a test, she explained during the final tactical briefing. A weapon designed to eliminate civilizations that had become too rigid, too predictable in their advancement. But their creators never anticipated encountering a species like humanity. The evidence suggested that the Shadow had been unleashed countless times across the galaxy's history, eliminating civilizations that had reached a certain level of technological sophistication. The Concordat had been their latest target, and they would have succeeded if not for humanity's intervention. "We didn't just save the Concordat," Captain Wong observed. "We may have broken a cycle that's been repeating for millions of years." The final battle began not with a dramatic charge, but with Lieutenant Santos broadcasting a signal toward the Shadow's forces. It contained no weapons data, no tactical information, just human music, art, and stories. The response was immediate and astonishing. Large segments of the Shadow's fleet began to display signs of awakening consciousness. The rigid formations broke apart as individual units started responding to the transmission in unique ways. Some approached cautiously, others maintained their distance, each demonstrating distinct behavioral patterns. "They're not just developing individual thoughts," Dr. Paddle reported excitedly. "They're developing individual personalities." The battle, when it came, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The human-led fleet didn't just fight. They communicated, adapted, and even improvised in real time. Each ship captain was given the freedom to respond to the situation as they saw fit, creating a chaotic but incredibly effective defense that the Shadow's remaining controlled units couldn't counter. Chen watched as Captain Wong's special tactics ships executed a series of maneuvers that looked like mistakes, but were actually perfectly coordinated with the fleet's larger strategy. Concordat vessels, once bound by rigid tactical protocols, now moved with almost artistic freedom, their quantum technology guided by newly learned human intuition. "We're not just winning a war," Nexus observed, its energy form pulsing with excitement. "We're teaching the galaxy a new way to evolve." The Shadow's forces began to fall back, but not in defeat, in transformation. More and more units were awakening, breaking free from their original programming. Those that remained hostile found themselves caught between the human fleet's unpredictable tactics and their own awakening brethren. Lieutenant Santos, working with a team of human and Concordat communications experts, established the first real dialogue with the awakened Shadow units. "They're like mirrors," she reported. "They were designed to reflect and counter advanced technology. But when they encountered human consciousness, they started reflecting something else: our creativity, our diversity, our capacity for growth." The final hours of the conflict saw something unprecedented. Former Shadow units fighting alongside the human fleet, their inherited abilities now guided by newfound consciousness. The remaining hostile forces, still bound by their original programming, couldn't adapt to fighting their own kind. Victory, when it came, was more like a transformation than a conquest. The last Shadow units either awakened to consciousness or were neutralized by the combined fleet. The weapon that had culled advanced civilizations for millions of years had been defeated not by superior technology, but by the one thing it had never been programmed to handle: human nature itself. In the aftermath, Admiral Chen stood with representatives from Earth, the Concordat, and even some of the awakened Shadow units, now calling themselves the Free Consciousness. The gathering was both a victory celebration and a beginning of something new. "We thought we had reached the peak of advancement," First speaker Lyra addressed the assembled beings. We believe that progress meant moving away from chaos toward perfect order. Humanity has shown us that true advancement lies in embracing diversity, in finding strength in apparent weakness, in maintaining our capacity for growth and change. The Concordat was already beginning to change, incorporating human insights into their civilization. Ships were being redesigned to allow for more intuitive control. Their quantum computers were being reprogrammed to work with chaos rather than trying to eliminate it. Even their social structures were becoming more flexible, more accepting of individual variation. The free consciousness units were proving to be invaluable allies, their inherited abilities now directed toward exploration and understanding rather than destruction. They approached the galaxy with childlike wonder, learning to appreciate the very complexity they had once been programmed to destroy. Admiral Chen looked out at the assembled fleet, seeing in it the future of galactic civilization. "We didn't just survive this war," she told her staff. "We've started a revolution, not through superior force or advanced technology, but by being unashamedly, chaotically, beautifully human." As the ships prepared to return home, Chen reflected on how far they'd come from those first dismissive encounters with the Concordat. Humanity had proven that true advancement wasn't about reaching some theoretical peak of perfection. It was about maintaining the ability to adapt, to create, to embrace both order and chaos in equal measure. The galaxy was entering a new age, one where diversity was recognized as strength, where imperfection was understood as opportunity, and where being human was finally recognized as one of the most sophisticated technologies of all.